Hi everybody, thank you for joining my channel Gardening on One Knee in Zone 5B. My name is Janelle and I'm here to hopefully help take some of the intimidation out of gardening and kind of empower you to grow your own groceries. It's winter months here, so there's really not a lot to do. I did seed peppers and onions so far. It's still a little too early to do things like tomatoes and flowers, but I was trying to think of things that I could maybe educate you on or show you what I have here, and I decided to do herbs. I didn't realize how much I had. I didn't realize how much I have grown. Herbs, once they're dehydrated, they're usually good for 1 or 2 years. Beyond that, they might start to lose their potency. They're not going to rot on you if you properly dry them, and you'll be able to tell if they're molding or anything. You'll see, the little gray fuzzy things on them. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you the different things that I've grown. It helps keep my food budget down. I'm going to share a couple of books that I have here. None of this is being sponsored, but it kind of helped educate me on what other possibilities some of the herbs have that I've been growing all along. As far as medicinal purposes, do your own research, talk to your doctor before you consume anything, because some kinds of herbs may interfere with the medication that you're on. And I've mentioned this before, I'm on a thyroid medication and I can't have things like lemon balm or horseradish because that interferes with thyroid medication. Putting that aside though, I do use some of the herbs to make salves. I don't make lotions. I kind of go with salves, and I just thought I would show you some of that stuff. And when I started digging it out, I guess I didn't realize how much I really had. So I'm going to start out with showing you a few things here. So we'll start out with something real common. This is lavender, the actual plant that's been dehydrated, and these are the lavender flowers. This is something that I will take a few sprigs out, crush them up in my hands, and I'll just throw them on my carpet, and then I run it over with the vacuum cleaner, and it kind of brings like a lavender scent to the room for a little while. So that's one thing that I do. Now, also too, with lavender, a lavender plant is actually in the evergreen family, meaning you never want to cut it all the way down to its base. It'd be just like, what good is a Christmas tree if you cut it all the way down to the base? You have the trunk left in the ground. It's not going to make another Christmas tree the next year. So it's okay to snip it off, and I usually just snip here and there just to kind of shape it, but I never like anything like that. So keep that in mind with your lavender. That's one way to care for it. Remember, it's kind of like an evergreen, like a pine tree, a cedar tree, a hemlock tree, behaves that way. And as far as the little flowers go, you can infuse these in an oil, and infuse is a fancy word to say soak. I usually use grapeseed oil for salves. Some things work better with different oils, but it seems like I fall back on grapeseed oil and maybe avocado oil once in a while. All you're gonna really do, like this here, like say if I wanted to make some lavender infused oil, say I wanted to make some soap, instead of using lavender essential oil, I can infuse my own lavender, which is kind of what I was saving this big jar for. So what I would do is I would fill this up with some sort of a oil, meaning grapeseed oil or avocado oil, and then I would just let this sit for about 4 to 6 weeks, and that's going to draw out all the nice scent out of the little flower heads. And then you can use it when you make soap, or if you make a salve, something like that, you'll have that natural scent. The next couple things here, these are mainly things that I use for teas. Peppermint, and this is from 2023, but it still has potency. Lemon mint, that's another one. These, by the way, these are old olive jars, I think. They're just a nice size, and you can see right through them. You know what's exactly in there as long as you label it. So I just usually use these for teas. And when I make my teas, I don't have like a tea bag, or I don't buy the little tea bags, but I use this. And what you do is you just kind of squeeze it open, put your tea in here, and then close it, and then you put that in hot water. You just kind of swish it around, let it sit. Most teas usually take just a couple minutes on up to 8 or 10 minutes. But anyway, I think I paid $2 for this. I actually bought 2 of them. So that if one's in the sink, then I have another one. But I don't know, I invested $2 in it. I'm never buying the little disposable tea bags that you can fill yourself. So keep that in mind. Then a couple other things that I have here. This is lemon balm. Now I said I can't consume lemon balm because it interferes with my medication, but I do use lemon balm in like vinegar to make like a cleaning spray. Now this probably isn't going to be enough to make any cleaning spray with. This is just a little dab left. And I think I ended up keeping this because I planted another plant and I thought, oh, I'll just add this, and I'll make my spray. But that other lemon balm plant died. We had kind of like a heavy storm in spring, and the thing that I had covering it blew off in the wind, and the plant got pummeled and it just never recovered. But I could technically dump this, but I kind of hate dumping things until I know that my new plants are going to grow and produce. But that's why I have lemon balm. Another thing that I have is nasturtium corns. This is the little flower seed pod, I guess you could say, from a nasturtium plant. There's different colors of nasturtium plant in here. The nasturtium plant is kind of a cool plant. It deters pests from your regular plants, from your vegetables. So I had nasturtium planted by tomatoes, by peppers, Oh, and I had one over by some onions and carrots. I think I planted 4 or 5 plants altogether. But the whole nasturtium plant is consumable. It's got that flavor of black pepper. So like if I was going to use the leaves, I only take like 1 or 2 leaves off of a plant. I wash it and then I just kind of shred them up so that I don't bite into a full nasturtium leaf, because that's going to have the impact of a mouthful of black pepper. So just shredding it up adds a little bit to your salad. What I save these for is to either plant or to grind up as black pepper as a replacement, because if that works, I'm not going to have to buy black pepper anymore. And then the flowers of nasturtium, those are also consumable, but they're too pretty to eat. The other thing that I saved was mallow or malva flowers. Mallow is the common name, malva is the botanical name. My plant gives me purple flowers, so I just dried some. And these are good for like a dry cough. That's mainly why I dried them, because I figured, oh, if I catch a cold, and I've had kind of a dry cough, and I had 2 bottles like this, and this is pretty much all that I have left from last year. I didn't think of saving it until it was almost fall, and that's my fault. I was like, oh, rats, that's right, I wanted to save more of these flowers. The nice thing about this plant, though, it does reseed itself, so I know I'm going to have plenty of plants out there. It is a perennial. I'm sure there's other things that you can do with it, but that's the main reason why I planted it. The other thing here is I have a couple of basils. Now, this is just regular basil that you would use like in Italian kind of cooking. Then this is lemon basil, and this is sweet Thai basil. They kind of look the same. I like basil tea. Well, I like it to a point where I drink so much of it and then I get sick of it. And then, like a month later, I'm like, oh, I could really go for some basil tea. And what I do then is I'll fill both of these up with my dried basil leaves, and I will run a wooden spoon through this, and I'll steep them in a quart of hot water, and I'll let it steep for a long time because I want to get as much of the basil out since I only have 2 of these. And then I just put it in the refrigerator in the door, and then I just drink it from there. But that's 2 ways to use lemon basil and sweet Thai basil. Both are very easy to grow, by the way. The other thing too here is chamomile. So, and I have an oxygen absorber in there. Now, chamomile is one of those herbs that it kind of looks like a little daisy. This is German chamomile, and it's really good for like winding down at the end of the day, relaxation, kind of like lavender. However, I don't drink coffee. I can't handle the taste of coffee. This tastes like coffee. So if you like coffee, you'll like this. But I did find a couple other ideas to use it. So of course, I'm not gonna toss it out. I'm gonna hang on to this. I know I saw something in a couple of the books that I have. That's the other thing too, is in the wintertime, like in fall, I'll buy 1 or 2 books to read over winter. And then I always kind of go through my plant books, my herb books, my canning cookbooks, just to kind of plan for this coming growing season, different things to grow. Let's see here, stevia. One of my friends told me that this was really, really hard to grow. And the packet of seeds that I got, it was kind of expensive, and there's only 12 seeds in there. So I planted all 12, and all 12 grew. So I have a lot of stevia. One thing to know about stevia, this is a sweetener. Stevia is 250 to 300 times sweeter than sugar. So all I ever really do is maybe use half of a leaf in my little tea thing. And this is also something too, that the longer you steep it, the sweeter it gets, and then all of a sudden it kind of crosses this threshold where it's so sweet that it's bitter. So that's just a caution. That's something I've learned from having stevia, but I kind of try to steer away from sugar in my drinks if I can. This is one way that I do it, besides like raw honey. The next ones I want to talk about are dill. Now, this is just one dill flower head in this little jar. I came across some sort of a concoction that used a dill flower head with some chamomile. I can't find it again. It's in one of my books, but there was a reason why I saved that. And then this here is dill weed. You see how nice and bright and green that is? So all this is the dill leaves, dehydrated, which I just usually do on my stove, or I have a little drying rack that I put in the living room in the summertime. And then I just kind of crunch it all up, and this is the end result. Now this is my last jar from last year, because I use this to make ranch seasoning. You can use it on fish, of course, too. And then with the dill, you get the seeds. And I grew some monster dills last year. I don't know. I have no explanation, but they were probably at least 4 feet tall. They were really big and prolific, and I got a lot of dill seed. I use this like when I'll make pickles sometimes. There's a few canning recipes that call for it. When I make pickles though, I prefer to use the actual dill flower, and then like a little garlic clove, a little onion, and a peppercorn or two, but we'll go into that another day. We talked a little bit about garlic. Garlic's technically not an herb, but this does have medicinal properties. This is garlic that's been fermented in apple cider vinegar for about a month, and then you pour off about half the apple cider vinegar. You can save that and use it like on a salad, so you have, garlic infused vinegar. And then you replace that volume with some honey. I push people to use local honey because those bees are working with the pollens in your area, the pollens that you're breathing in. But anyway, you chew one of these up every night and it boosts up your immune system. Now, I was taking this like last May. I got a cold. I got a really, I'll call it a bad cold, because I was coughing so much that I tore the intercostal tissue in my ribs, and that took almost 3 months to heal. It was really painful. But this is one of those things that I was chewing up every night to kind of get rid of the cold and everything. However, because the temperatures were warming and I was trying to do stuff outside, and then you start perspiring a little bit more, I smelled like garlic sweat. And when I would get into the shower at night, when the water would hit my skin, oh my gosh, I can't stand myself. But it does have immune properties. And I know some people too, they'll take these and they'll jab them on a little pick for in a mixed drink. That's up to you. The next thing is sage. I grew this. This is actually 2-year-old sage. I don't use it as much as what I thought. A little bit goes a long way with sage. Sage is a nice complement to poultry like turkey and chicken. Now, when I pressure cook and pressure can turkey, I do not add sage because sage makes it bitter. That's just what I was told not to do, so I don't. I can always add it later, but half the time I have so many different seasonings in there. I don't miss it. I never really can my meat with salt because I don't know what I'm going to be using it for, and I can always add salt later. So you don't have to do that either if you don't want. There's a difference between table salt and canning salt. The table salt has kind of like a cellulose coating around each grain. You don't know this, you can't see this, but like say if you were going to be pickling pickles, your water is going to be cloudy. Your food is going to be fine, but your water is going to be cloudy. When you use pickling salt, it just stays clear because it doesn't have that cellulose coating on it. Just a tip. But yeah, I use parsley, like, and this is still really nice and bright too. I use parsley like in my soups or like a top or like a garnish or something. It doesn't add a whole lot of flavor, it's more for decoration. But I do grow it and I do save it. The next thing here is rosemary. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme is next. I didn't even think of that when I put it on the table. This is rosemary. Rosemary is good with poultry again, but I found a recipe where I can make rosemary Parmesan crackers. Very easy, very delicious. So that's mainly the reason why I grow this. Now, I grew my rosemary from seed 2 years ago, and this is my plant, and it's got a little flower on it right up front. But rosemary is something that can't be left outside here in Wisconsin. It's gonna freeze. So I just bring it in for the winter, and from time to time I even snip off fresh rosemary. I know I have the dried stuff, but I don't know, fresh rosemary, I just feel like I have this and I didn't have to go to the store to get it. But anyway, in winter, we have to keep our rosemary in the house here. It's just too cold, it'll freeze out. The next two things are lemon thyme and regular thyme. They don't look too much different, but lemon thyme and regular thyme. Lemon thyme I think tastes better on fish, and then regular thyme is good with poultry basically. I eat a lot of chicken and turkey. I don't, anything that I eat with beef, usually that's more like a little bit of salt and pepper. I don't really like go overboard unless I'm making something like stroganoff, or if I add it to chili or spaghetti sauce or something. But yeah, I kind of like to season, if I can it, I like to season it later if possible. But there's just some things like spaghetti sauce or salsa, you need to season everything ahead of time so that all those flavors marinate together. Let's see here. Oh yeah, this is kind of cool. So this is celery leaf. So I dehydrated a bunch of celery from the store. I'm not a big celery eater, but I do like it for flavor in like a chicken dumpling soup or turkey dumpling soup. I take the leaves off and then I'll just chop them up real fine, and then I'll just let them dehydrate on the stove on a cookie sheet on a paper towel. Now, these are from 2023 and these are from 2024. You see how bright these are comparing to these? And that's just it naturally, the color's naturally fading through time. When you open both jars, they smell the same. I could still use this, I could combine it. I could also dump this and just use this up. But I kind of like to just hang on to it. That's those little ball jars that I kind of showed you on the previous video. Two more things here. We have dried orange peel, dried lemon peel. I shouldn't say peel, zest. Whatever you have a recipe, like I made orange chicken and it says it wants the zest of an orange and the juice of the orange or something. But sometimes I'll just buy a couple oranges and I'll juice them, but I'll zest them before I juice them, and I'll just dry this. I have a recipe for orange cookies, and then you also use some of this in the frosting. And then lemon zest. I like blueberry lemon bread, and that recipe calls for this in the bread and in the glaze. So that's the reason why I saved those. This here is a plantain sting stick. Plantain is a weed, I'll show you a picture. It's a weed pretty much by anybody's standards, but it looks like this. You've probably seen this in your garden. It's fairly easy to pull out, but the leaves actually will give you relief if you're stung outside. You can just kind of crush them up or give them a quick little chew. I mean, not to make it all slimy and ready to swallow, just 2 or 3 times just to kind of bust it up. You want to get those juices exposed, and then you put that on your sting. That'll give you some relief. So what I did was I infused it into an oil, and then after some time I strained it, and then I added a little bit of beeswax, and I bought these tubes on Amazon. So it's just filled in there so that I can kind of keep this out in the garage. It's more likely I'm going to get stung outside than inside, so if I'm really filthy, I can just use this. It's in the garage. The next 2 things here, chives, and I just have a plant outside my back door. I kind of like these with dips. When they're dry like this, they're not as delicious on a baked potato, but it gives you kind of like a light onion flavor. You can sprinkle it in, like, I kind of cheat. When I make like a turkey vegetable soup, instead of putting onions in, because I don't like to, it's a texture thing, I don't like to bite into an onion, but I like the flavor. I can put chives in and it doesn't faze me. That's why I dry some every year. Fennel, I grew fennel a couple years ago, and I got a lot of seeds. And this is kind of something, this is what they have in Italian sausage to give it that flavor. So you could technically take some regular pork sausage and add some fennel to it, and then you have Italian sausage. It's kind of a nice thing to add onto pizzas. The other thing here is calendula. This is probably my favorite. This is what the flowers look like. They're in the marigold family, so if you're allergic to wildflowers, this isn't for you. And then this is when you pull off all the flowers. Now, I have infused oil in these with just like this jar is ready to go. I can fill this up with some grapeseed oil and let it infuse. This one's ready to go. Now, I've already just infused like this too with them still intact, and it works the same way. It's just as fine. Calendula is an herb that's awesome for healing skin. You can use it for scrapes, scratches. Some people say acne. It's kind of like one of those therapeutic things. And again, you would infuse this for about 30 days, strain it, and then what I usually do is I grate down some beeswax and make it into a salve. And the salve, let me see here, this is the salve. I used the last of my little pot up in the bathroom last night after my shower, and I thought, oh, I gotta get some more out. So this is what it looks like after I have it infused and mixed with some beeswax. It smells like, it's one of those combo scents. Peaceful sleep. That's the essential oil that I put in this. I shower at night so I don't go to bed with all the germs I've accumulated during the day. And then I use this. So I usually use something like a lavender or bergamot or this one, and scent my oil or scent my salves with that essential oil. So this turned into this. This is calendula with St. John's wort. I must have used all my oh yeah, I did use all my St. John's wort. Again, just a little bit sunnier of a color. I might have used a different oil for this one. Seems like when I use grapeseed oil, the salves are a little bit more green, and then when I use avocado oil, they're a little bit more golden. But this is calendula and St. John's wort. Now, St. John's wort, there's not a lot of solid study results on St. John's wort. It's a little bit of a wild card herb. Now, they say St. John's wort will take care of depression. And when they announced that some years ago, everybody's going out and taking St. John's wort instead of their medication, and it wasn't working. It does work, but you have to let it build up in your system for a few weeks. And some types of medications, if you miss a day, you're not 100%. So there's that kind of there's that window. You gotta let it build up in your system if your mental health will let you do that. And some people, they're fragile and they can't gamble on 3 weeks with no medication waiting for this to maybe kick in. So the other thing it's good for is joint pain, and it says especially knees. So this is why I made this. It's because I have, like a fake knee, and I have a lot of phantom pain and arthritis in the other knee. So I wanted to try this on my knees just to see if it'll give me any relief. I haven't tried using it yet because I've been just kind of using the calendula. I kind of forgot about this, but today was one of those days where we're just coming out of some bad weather, and then it got cold and sunny, and my joints don't adjust that quickly, so I set a pot out of this for my shower tonight. The other one, this is plantain salve. So this is, I didn't put that top on very tight. So that salve is the same thing as what's in this tube. And this is good for stings. And you would just dip your fingers, clean fingers, people, into your salve and put that on whatever you were stung with. So those are kind of like the herbs that I grow and why. And then I'm just gonna show you too a couple of my key books. Now this is the very first one that I bought, and she does have a bunch of YouTube videos, lots of information. This was the very first book I bought. You can tell by all the tags, all the good things that I've done in here. I recommend it. I think there's a ring-bound one also, which would be kind of handy because then it'll lay flat if you're reading. Let me just set this aside. We'll keep going through my book pile. This one, I was at one of my friend's house and she had this on her coffee table. Lots of great ideas in here. The print is pretty small, but it gives you really nice pictures of the plants and great ideas again. I find also too that from author to author, how they explain things, like it might not stick in your brain from one author, but then you pick up the next book and you read about it and you're like, why didn't it say that in that other book? And then you open it up and you're like, oh, it does. So sometimes the way the author writes about it catches your attention. That's kind of why, well, that's my excuse why I have multiple books on herbs and like herbal medicines. This one here is really nice too, again, and this one's got like really pretty pictures. I actually picked this last year out of the ditch, and I kind of do this, I pick it on a less traveled road where there's less likelihood of car exhaust going towards the plants, and you have to pick it before they start spraying the crops, otherwise you're just consuming pesticides. And the day that I picked it, it must have been like 90 because I remember I was sweating. Picking clover is not strenuous exercise by any means. I was sweating though. I was just baking. Well, I was kind of like out in the wide open too. I was just baking. I came in the house, the first thing I did was I jumped in the shower to cool off and then get my sweaty clothes off of me. I couldn't stand myself, but I picked that, and that is a delicious tea. There's a lot of medicinal properties on that too. I think it's red clover. We're gonna look real quick. Sores, ulcers, psoriasis, eczema, skin problems, lymphatic swelling, tonsillitis, athlete's foot, whooping cough, bordetella pertussis. Cows love it, so cows can't be wrong. This one here is another one that I picked up. I haven't really gone through this one as much as the other ones, but they have really nice pictures. I feel like pictures really grab my attention and get me interested, and then I'll read up and I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. I could do that. That would be okay for me. The last one, and I just kind of invested in this one this year. It's kind of like how to make natural medicines. There's no index in the back, so you kind of got to rely on their table of contents, and then they just kind of break it down as far as what these medicines, like how do you make them at home. The one thing with herbal medicines that people don't realize when they're just getting into it is it takes time to sometimes infuse or ferment or whatever you got to do with the herbs to get it to that level of medication. So let's use fire cider for an example. Fire cider in this book is listed as amoxicillin, I believe. Fire cider takes about 4 to 6 weeks to brew on your counter. So that's kind of one of those things, like you're not feeling good, oh, amoxicillin, but then you gotta wait for it to brew. So that's why I kind of read these things in the wintertime. It gives me a little bit of education on what I want to aim for in the summertime, to have things on hand, stuff like for a sting or for achy knees or for skin repair, because all this stuff, it takes at least 4 weeks for it to infuse. And remember, the word infuse just basically is a fancy word meaning soak your herbs in an oil. So hopefully that was educational for you. Maybe you grow some of this stuff already and you just didn't realize that there was different things that you could do with it. That's why it's kind of neat to pick up an herb book, because you'll be, glancing through it, like, you'll say, these are really pretty flowers. Oh, they kind of, I think they attract aphids. So this is kind of like the sacrificial plant to protect your tomatoes. And they're in the marigold family, like I said. Now, if you have wildflower allergies, this might not work for you, probably won't work for you. I don't have wildflower allergies, so they're really pretty, and some people plant them because they're in the marigold family, and they're cute, and they're bright yellow, and some of them are pink, and some of them are real dusty, buttery color. And then you'll find out, oh my goodness, there's so many different things you can do with this. So kind of just pick up a book and just read it, just to see, if things that you're growing from year to year have other purposes than what you're already using it for. I know a lot of people just kind of rely on the internet, but for me, I like to sit with a book, and I think I focus more on it. My eyes are really bothered right now after having eye surgery. Reading things on the internet for too long, any kind of screen, the brightness bothers me. But books, so far, I can use a magnifying glass and kind of read through them. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful, informational. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, and we'll have more videos coming up getting back to gardening. Right now it's only March, and my little calendar says I should be seeding my plants sometime around March 19th and March 20th. So I hope you have a great day, and thanks again for joining me. Bye now.